Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rob Has a Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Armstrong, and I am here with the next exit interview with one of the jury members for Big Brother Canada 9. I will be speaking with Jed. Jed is going to be here. I'm going to ask him all about the jury, his thoughts on the jury, and then also, does he regret the move to use the veto? Let's see what he regrets the most. So without any further ado, here is Jed. Jed, how are you?
Aaron, not bad, man. How are you doing?
Doing well. I have some questions for you. I would like to know, what are you looking for as a juror?
As a juror, I'm looking for the player that played the most all-around game. They won competitions, they made big moves, they were a social threat, and they built good personal relationships. They performed well under pressure coming down the line. Just a player that I truly respect their game, and they played from day one until day 70.
How much of your decision will be based on the personal relationships you had versus how much you think they played the best game?
Honestly, it's not going to have much weight. I said that from the beginning. If I was in the jury, it's going to be a very objective opinion. I'm going to leave the subjectivity and the bias out of it. If I'm in a situation where I have somebody up there that I have a good personal relationship with, but I don't think they played a great game, then they won't get my vote. If they're sitting beside somebody who played a great game and I wasn't necessarily close with them, they will still get my vote. I'm going to look at the game as a whole.
What does it mean to be playing the best game this season?
Again, it comes back to being the most well-rounded player. So somebody that won competitions, they weren't scared to make big moves. They took out big targets in the house. They had good social relationships with people in the house, and they were able to put themselves in a position where they could get to the final two without being fully targeted. And yeah, it's just someone that I think, played the game hard. I just don't want to see floaters getting there and people that had other people make moves for them. I just want to see someone that played the game hard.
How important is jury management when it comes to deciding who to vote for?
I think it's very important. I mean, in the final 9, we started to get into the jury. And as an HOH in that situation, you need to think about who you're putting on the block, whose feathers are going to be ruffled by doing that. And if you do send someone home, you really need to think about how you're sending them home. If it's a dirty move, if it's a blindside backdoor on your alliance, like that person's going to be salty and they may be bitter. So you need to make sure that even if you do make that kind of move, you're talking to them before they leave, you're explaining yourself, and you're trying to keep that relationship going so that they respect you in the case that you're in the final 2.
Okay, if you were to rank the remaining house guests in order of who you think you're most likely to vote for in the end to who you're least likely to vote for in the end, what would that list look like?
Okay, so there's 5 left. So I'd have to go Kiefer at number 1. I would go Beth at number 2. I would go to Sean and Tara, honestly, tied for number 3, and then Braden at number 4 or 5, like that last spot.
Okay. Why did you place those players in the positions that you did?
Well, Kiefer has played a great game all around. He has played hard since day one. He was voted in as Canada's favorite, and that instantly puts a target on your back. He was on the block 2 times in a row, and he was able to get himself off the block. He followed that up by winning HOH, taking a big shot that no one else wanted to take, and taking out Kyle. And yeah, just throughout the game, he's been a beast. He's won competitions. He's formulated plans and orchestrated moves to get big players out, even when he wasn't in power. And he had a great social game. He was in the middle, and he played with the Sunsetters, and he played with the TNTs of the world. So I feel like he set himself up perfectly. When it comes to Beth, obviously I have a bit of bias. I played the game with her. We were very tight, very good relationship. But I also see that she isn't getting the credit that she deserves when it comes to the moves that she made. She made a huge move to backdoor Spicy V, Victoria. She was probably the best player in the game at that time. And Beth took her out and didn't bat an eye. So I think she's made big moves that people haven't really seen. When it comes to Sean, obviously, he was my number 1 guy throughout the game. He hadn't really made any moves in the game other than manipulating people to make moves for him. He hadn't won any competitions, but his social game is extremely strong. And I think that if he picks up a couple wins here, he'll be in the running to win the game. Tara hasn't made many moves throughout the game until day 43, when she was able to pick up that veto and save herself, and then following it up with that HOH and taking that big shot at the showmance, myself and Beth, and then winning that battle back against me. Like, has a lot of momentum. And if she gets another couple wins here, I never thought I'd say it, but I would vote for her in the end. And lastly is Braden. I don't think he's played a terrible game, but in comparison, he has played a lesser game. It's been very heavily reliant on social, and he hasn't played the game as much. So he's really good with the social aspect of the game. He floats to power, and he gets himself in positions where he isn't a target. So I think for him to win, he has to get a couple HOHs or a veto or two and make a big move.
Do you think this list is likely to change, or do you feel like it's pretty locked in?
Obviously, it's subject to change depending on what happens within the next 2 weeks. But I think if they don't get Kiefer out of that house, he is unbeatable at this time. I don't think there's much that anyone could do from here on out to beat him. So if they have any chance of winning, I know that they need to get him out. Other than that, I think it's kind of a toss-up between Beth, Tashawn, Tara, and Braden. If any of those four are able to pick up 1 or 2 wins here and make a big move, they could win the game. So, other than Kiefer, who I think is a shoo-in to win, those other four are really, it's anyone's game.
I was going to ask, who do you think the players should be targeting next?
Yeah, I mean, if they're smart, they would target Kiefer because he is unbeatable. I think they know that. If you look down the jury line, every single person would vote for Kiefer if he was in the end. So it would be a unanimous vote. So if they're smart, they would target him for sure. Depending how the game plays out, he may be able to save himself. I think that he's in a position where he needs to win out. Like, if he's not in power, he has to win the veto. He has to win the next HOH. Or else they would be stupid not to take him out because he will win the game.
How do you feel about Ty now that he's voted you out?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a tough situation, and I put myself in that situation because I had full on trust that he would save me, just because of the relationship that we had built since day one. I knew that he really, really wants to win this game, and he would do whatever it takes to win. I didn't think that would mean cutting me at that time, but it did. And I understand the move. He knows that he couldn't beat me in the end. His resume is nowhere close to what mine was. And he knew that I was a competition threat. So if he let me go that week, I would have picked up a couple more wins, and he wouldn't have been able to stop me. So on a game level, I understand the move. And I respect it. On a personal level, it's never changed, and it never will change. I'm never going to feel any animosity towards him because of a game move. We're still going to be boys. We're going to be best friends. So I have nothing but love for Tashawn, but I do hope I see him coming through these doors someday soon.
What do you plan to tell your fellow jurors once you get to the jury house?
Well, I'm going to have to tell them everything that happened over the last week. Like, it was a crazy week. I think it was one of the craziest weeks of the season, just because, Tara won HOH, which was the least likely to happen just because there were 4 of us against her that were trying to, that would have made the same move to get her out. But she was the one that picked up that win. The worst case scenario, the one person that didn't want to win won. And she put up Beth and myself. First time we've hit the block. She put the trio on slop. First time we've hit slop. And then me winning the veto, you would think that I'd be safe, but I got kind of strong-armed into using that veto and trying to save my alliance, and then getting voted out, and then having it followed up by a fake double where Tara was voted out instantly and then ends up beating me in that competition. It was an absolutely crazy week, and telling the jury members what happened, I think, will change their mind about who is playing a strong game, because Tara went up in my ranks, Deshaun went up in my ranks, So I have to communicate with them.
What is the move that you regret making most in the game?
I know a lot of people probably think I regret using the veto on Beth, but that's actually not the move I regret. It would actually be the week prior when I was HOH and putting Kiefer up on the block beside Tina after Tara had taken herself down. I didn't realize the gravity of that move and how it would affect him moving forward if I chose to keep him. And we did choose to keep him, and he never forgot about that. He went through an emotional roller coaster that week, and he really thought that he was out the door. And I just know that he held that, and he had a lot of animosity, and he was out for me after that. So the next week, when I decided to use the veto on Beth, I was relying on his vote to stay. And I forgot that I just burned him the week before, and he didn't forget. So that was ultimately the reason why he would not give me his vote.
All right. Thank you so much, Jed.
All right, Tim. Appreciate it.
And there you go. That was Jed. A lot of interesting thoughts on the jury there. Very interested to see where this all goes, especially with the fourth straight jury member telling me Kiefer is the one to beat and needs to be the one to be targeted. We'll see. We'll see where all this goes. And also, he regrets putting Kiefer on the block. So that's what we got from Jed. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I will be live every morning that there are feeds to update you on whatever happens on those feeds. And then, of course, during the episodes, I'm live on Twitch at twitch.tv/TaronArmstrong. After the episodes, live recapping the episode on Rob Has a Podcast. So make sure you check all of that content out. We've also got the Circle coverage going on. We've got some more episodes that are going to drop very soon for the third week of the Circle on Netflix. Lots of fun stuff there as well. Check it all out. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.